I've been looking at the right to participation and what makes participation and consultation meaningful, especially for small-scale fishing communities. And I came across these guidelines by the UN Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights on meaningful participation. How can that be helpful in practice?
Well, they're really helpful because they help unpack what right to participation in public affairs should look like. And they help us understand that that right is not just about participating in elections or the right to vote, but it's about meaningful participation and influence of rights holders in public decision-making processes. And even though all contexts are different, there are some general recommendations for states on how to ensure meaningful participation in public decision-making.
I see. But what does that mean in practice? Are there any structures maybe that need to be in place?
Yeah, actually the first recommendation is about ensuring that there are institutional frameworks in place, that there are like mechanisms set up to ensure participation. So for example, if there's a new fishery policy being developed or revised, you can activate that mechanism. You don't have to reinvent or invent a new modality. And of course, then those mechanisms have to be accessible, they have to be inclusive, they have to be funded.
So these structures sound incredibly meaningful, but I've been also thinking about timing. Does that matter for a meaningful participation? And is there a specific stage where small-scale fishers should be consulted?
Absolutely, and it's important that participation should be seen as an ongoing process, both before and during and after a decision. It's not good enough to call small-scale fishers to consider a project that's already been designed and it's already been decided, for example, to build a port in a small-scale fishing area. There has to be an opportunity for people to actually influence the decision. And then participation has to continue throughout the implementation of a project and also after. So timing is super important.
So beyond timing and those structures that we discussed earlier, is there anything else that needs to be in place for meaningful participation?
Yes, so for example, documents must be shared well in advance and made publicly available. There must be time for people to actually prepare and consider what input to give. So it's not good enough to share information at the start of a religious holiday, for example, and expect representatives to come with input at the end of that holiday. It's important that information is provided in relevant formats and languages. It's also really important that there are multiple ways for people to provide input. So not enough that there's just a one-off meeting and if you missed it, you missed the opportunity. There has to be other ways, for example, reaching authorities by phone or going in person or submitting something online, and it should be free of cost. And there shouldn't be excessive requirements. For example, if you're dealing with small-scale fishers who might be illiterate, they shouldn't be asked to fill out a complex form. And then if open consultation meetings are called, for example, in a fishing community, it's important that these processes are inclusive, that a real effort is made to make sure that they are accessible, that it's not on the third floor of a building without an elevator, if there are people in wheelchairs coming, for example. Timing matters, that it's at a time convenient to that community. And it's in a neutral place that does not deter people from joining. And then also there should be transparency about how input provided will be used, when can people expect to hear back, etc. So these are all things that are important to ensure that participation is meaningful and enabled.
Sounds very interesting, and thank you so much for contextualizing those guidelines and helping me understand what is it that makes participation meaningful for small-scale fishing communities.
Welcome.